Imagine a cracker so hard it could stop a bullet. Imagine it crawling with so many weevil larvae veterans joked it could march to the front lines on its own. This was the reality for millions during the American Civil War, fought between 1861 and 1865. They called it sheet iron, tooth dullers, worm castles. A simple unleavened biscuit, flour, water, sometimes a bit of salt. But its reputation was anything but simple. Why would the Union, the industrial powerhouse of its time, feed its men something so notoriously awful? The answer was not malice, but the brutal calculus of feeding the largest army the continent had ever seen. The challenge was immense. The term worm castle was a grimly accurate nickname from the men who had to eat it. Crates weren't impervious. Pests invaded flour before baking or crept in during long, damp storage. Break one open, and you'd find tunnels and wriggling white larvae, castles for worms that soldiers had to besiege for sustenance. Infestation became a dark daily ritual. One veteran said, "All the fresh meat we had came in the hardtack." Many ate in the dark, better not to see what went in. Others broke it up into hot coffee to soften it, and to make the larvae float up to be skimmed away. It looked stained, sometimes green or blue with mold, joining the weevils. To the touch, more wood or slate than food. Fresh, it was bland, old, a musty sourness that clung to the palate. Frying made skilligali, easier to chew, but now unpleasantly greasy. The nickname tooth dullers came from painful experience. Baked almost dry, it was less food than building material. Diaries told of cracked teeth, broken molars, and aching jaws. On the line, dentistry was nearly non-existent. The tool of choice, the extraction key. The cure could be worse, excruciating, risky, sometimes shattering the jaw. Many suffered in silence. Solutions: soak it in water, coffee, or soup until it turned to mush. Sometimes half an hour just to eat a cracker. Or smash and grind it to powder, then fry a kinder greasy pancake, skilligali. Many veterans carried permanent dental scars, the Army's food injuring the Army from within. Hardtack rarely traveled alone. Salt pork, sometimes salt beef, was its constant companion. Fatty cuts salted and packed in brine to last without refrigeration. Reality: sun, leaks, poor cuts, rancid, slimy, discolored. They called it salt horse, tough as if the beast died of old age. Step 1, desalinate, soak for hours, change the water, then fry. The grease was camp gold, used to cook, to crisp hardtack, even to grease boots. The meat often remained a salty strip of fat and gristle. Calories? Yes. Vitamins? No. Scurvy stalked the camps. Weakness, bleeding gums, open sores, chronic digestive troubles, the Virginia quick-step, the Tennessee trots. Fuel weakened men. Food meant to strengthen instead made them sick, weak, and prone to disease sweeping through camp life. Beyond hardtack and salt pork came coffee, sugar, and sometimes beans or rice. Coffee was more than a drink, ritual, comfort, a tool for survival. Issued green, roasted over fire, ground by rock or rifle butt, the aroma brought a moment of peace. First thing in the morning, last at night, heat on watch, caffeine on the march, and a bath for hardtack. As one wrote, "Nobody can soldier without coffee." Sugar sweetened the hardship, but supplies varied and morale rose or fell with it. Desiccated vegetables, early dehydration, were loathed as desecrated, a foul-smelling sludge. In the end, the soldiers' trinity endured: hardtack, salt pork, black coffee, grim, simple, reliable. Voices from the front, complaints, jokes, and detail from men who lived on rations. For breakfast, hardtack. For dinner, hardtack. For supper, hardtack and a little salt horse. I fear I shall soon be as hard as the crackers I eat. A man cannot fight on such fare. Dark humor asserted control over misery. The crackers we receive are full of small white worms. We toast them over the fire, which makes them jump about, and then we eat. The grotesque became mundane, a practical fact for veterans. Regulations promised abundant bread or flour, pork or fresh beef. Field reality, wagons stuck in the mud, no meat for 3 days, 2 crackers a man. Hunger, not the enemy, too often won the day inside a soldier's gut. Industrialized starvation. The North's factories, mills, and slaughterhouses churned out rations at scale. Chicago, New York, millions of biscuits per day. Huge plants processed thousands of hogs, countless barrels filled. Logistics was the North's edge. Armies sustained for years. The system prioritized maximum non-perishable calories at the lowest cost. Little oversight. Contractors paid by unit. Corruption thrived. Low-grade flour even spoiled. Meat from sick animals sent to the line. Abundant food, barely fit to eat. A strategy of attrition rode on this machine. Grant knew the North could outlast in men, materiel, and rations, but the same efficiency wore men down. Hard flour and rancid fat. Not starving for lack of food, starving because the food made them sick. Hardtack, salt pork. Symbols of an era where factories won wars as much as fighting men. The Union war effort pulsed through railroads, the supply arteries. Beyond the railhead, everything slowed. Wagons, mules, mud. A corps of 30,000 might need 600 wagons just for a few days of food. Stretch or break the line, and hunger hits immediately. Confederate raiders torched wagons and stole provisions. Victories without pitched battle. Rain turned roads to quagmires. Campaigns halted by weather and wheels. Tens of thousands living on half rations waited. Sherman solved the tether. 60 days, 60,000 men living off the land. A sudden feast, fresh meat, roots, corn. Relief from hardtack and salt horse. A great barbecue that proved Union reach. The South's weak industry and rails meant near starvation, often a third the food. Logistics of hunger helped decide the war, enough, however poor, to keep the North moving to victory. The misery forged a public memory. Broken teeth, rancid meat, nutritional disease. That memory seeded reform in military nutrition and food safety. Lessons weren't instant. Embalmed beef reignited outrage. Muckrakers and scandal drove the Pure Food and Drug Act, foundation of the modern FDA. C-rations sought balance in durable boredom. Today's MREs are engineered for nutrition, safety, longevity, flameless heaters, even hot sauce. Evolution born of the commissary's failures. Wars are won by strategy and bravery, yes, but also by beans and bullets, or crackers and salt pork. Logistics, health, morale, effectiveness. Food shapes them all. The humble, hated sheet iron fed a war, helped win it, and left reforms that still protect us today.